Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now, guys? It's that time of the week again where we're getting our scouting caps on, passports are out, and we're jet setting around European and world football, looking for the next transfer targets that Celtic could be looking to bring in the upcoming summer transfer window. And what a series we've had so far, by the way, guys. Every week when we've been dropping these shows, you guys have been showing up in your thousands to tune into the content, leave your thoughts and suggestions as well as feelings about everything we're talking about Celtic transfer policy wise in the comment section, and it's been a breath of fresh air. After this video, after this episode goes out, the next edition of this we're going to do as a live stream, and we're going to whittle down our list of what will be at that point over 100 players to bring it down into a short list of maybe 25 or something like that. So at the same time and place next week, we'll be live to go through the short list and start to get serious about who Celtic could be looking to bring in. And this week we take ourselves to Holland. Sadly, not really off the back of any transfer rumour mill action or anything like that, but Holland has been quite a fertile hunting ground for Celtic over my entire life, really, and go all the way back to your Henrik Larssons from Feyenoord, never mind your Virgil van Dijks from Groningens. Yeah, there's always a Dirk Borrichter kind of knocking about in this division kind of thing, but I think, with the experience we've got, the transfer budget that we have, as well as the remit and the protocol of going for trebles, Champions League football for next year, fingers crossed, and all that good stuff, of course. At any point in the video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Please do. It makes a big difference. We do very, very well on these videos, and a big driving factor for that is a lot of you guys enjoy it and hit the like button, as well as get into the comment section as well, of course. So please feel free with the likes and the comments on this one. It does a lot to really boost the content and help grow the channel, so we can find more Jungle Gyms to come and hang out with us in the live streams, as well as in the comment section of the video as well. And of course, if you haven't done so already, hit subscribe. It's absolutely free, and all the rest of it as well. But yeah, all that good stuff, of course. And let's just get stuck straight into it, because I'm really excited to go through Holland in this one, because so many of the countries that we've looked at so far, we're constantly having to double check the standard of player that we're looking at, and having to constantly remind ourselves that, for these different divisions, we should really be shopping at the top of the food chain. We're not going into some of the leagues we've featured already in the series, or even this one, looking for prospects and prodigies for the most part. We're looking for the finished article, or even those promising players that have already cut their teeth, already showing a degree of pedigree, of promise, that sort of thing. And as we know, for a lot of Celtic fans and for the club, really the biggest piece of transfer business that has been kind of left undone as of January is replacing Kyogo Furuhashi. And if the club are dead set serious on replacing Kyogo Furuhashi with a like level, a guy that's just as good, similar sort of transfer fee probably expected, etc., one of the tippy top targets in world football, something in my eye there, world football, would be Ayase Ueda, who has been absolutely on fire for Feyenoord since signing for them in 2023, I'm pretty sure it was. This is a player that I was actually monitoring quite closely in the J-League a few seasons ago. He came through, he's just, as you can see, at the age of 26, he came through in that same sort of generation as a lot of the other Japanese players that we currently see playing around Europe. And Ayase Ueda started off as more of a kind of right wing, inside forward type, and was quite diminutive, when he started out at Kashima Antlers. But since moving to Europe, he has taken on a couple of different clubs and ultimately progressed, developed, and been successful to the point now where he's one of the main guys for Feyenoord. But as you guys will know, with Feyenoord, they've been selling a lot of their players recently, a lot of their better ones, especially Orkan Kokcu, who's now at Benfica, Jimenez, who's now went to AC Milan, and there's one or two other ones that have went into the Premier League and a few other different bits and pieces. And they'll probably have another couple of high value outgoing transfers in this summer. And Ayase Ueda is currently contracted, as you can see, to 2028, is currently 26 years of age, and this is just Kyogo. I would say he's a little bit smaller, but in actual fact, remembering the size and everything else of Kyogo, I would actually, maybe he's actually a little bit tiny bit bigger. He's kind of grown and developed over the last 4 or 5 years compared to when I initially seen him in Japan. Been very effective for Feyenoord in all competitions, and has been a player kind of pushing to get into their team. Has had an injury or two kind of slow him down, but for the majority of his Feyenoord career, he's been competing with Santiago Jimenez, Paixão, Calvin Stengs. They've actually got quite a lot of different attacking players there. They're all quite formidable, and he's highly rated there, and he's definitely been doing really good. But along with, they currently now have a guy called Carranza. They've still got options up there and everything else. And Feyenoord are finishing third in the Eredivisie the way things are sitting at the moment, so they'll have a Champions League qualifier, as will we. So there's not really like an obvious hierarchy kind of situation here where if they're going straight into the group stages, it might have been a little bit different for me. But Do we go after Ueda? Is he a player we could actually realistically go and sign this summer? I think it could be if the club are motivated to do so. His transfer market value here is €8 million. I would expect Feyenoord to be asking for a lot closer to 15 if I'm honest. He's got an Asian Games silver medal as well as a couple of cups and Super Cups and stuff like that in the Dutch League. 31 caps for Japan, 14 goals. And again, Celtic fans, when you guys have been upset, like how does Kyogo not get caps? Ayase, Ueda, as well as a few other players that we featured from France have been a big reason for that. You know, they offer the same qualities as Kyogo, but they're better at finishing. They're better team players, and overall in this case as well as younger. You know, having previously came from Cercle Bruges in Holland, which is a very small team, you know, and fired them up the table a bit. Got himself that move to Feyenoord 2 seasons ago now, with like a tiny bit of European competition experience, so maybe a little bit untested still in that sense, but a guy that's got a very clear pedigree at national team level, coming through the youth ranks, playing in Olympics and Asian Games and all the rest of it, as well as for the senior team. Is this a move that I think the player would be super motivated for? Not overly, you know. I don't think from his standpoint, but in Feyenoord for a couple of years and being in situ, coming to Celtic would be like an obvious like change of circumstances, similar quality of league, same kind of prospects when it comes to Champions League, etc. But it's just, does it bring you closer perhaps to the next big blockbuster move in his career is probably the main thinking here. Ultimately, I don't think this is a move that Celtic would pursue. I think Feyenoord would probably accept an offer of around €15 million. I think Ueda, especially if we do keep Rio, obviously we've still got Dyson, if we can keep these guys in the building, adding a player like Ueda in would almost certainly be a win, be a hit. And for spending the level of money required, that's kind of one of the number one objectives, one of the number one priorities. And I think going after players like Ueda shows how serious Celtic are, and would show, you know, where we see ourselves now in that kind of pecking order, as it were. Now, again, I'm not too sure how much to talk this guy up with. He's right. This is a bit of a wonder kid who's been playing at NEC Breda. His name is Leo Sauer. He's Slovakian, and he's actually owned by Feyenoord. Now, having watched this guy kind of develop under the radar in youth tournaments and all the rest of it, Leo Sauer is a really gifted, quite a Celtic kind of attacking based player. I don't know if I want to call him a midfielder or a wide forward. He can play through the middle as well. He reminds me in terms of like how he carries himself around the pitch as like really good Celtic midfielders. I don't want to say Matt O'Reilly. He's not quite Matt O'Reilly. Matt O'Reilly was a bit stronger. He's kind of like he's got that kind of line breaking, front forward approach, but still has a bit of skill, has a little bit of finesse for, you know, the long shot, the cutting pass. He's got a wee bit of X factor about him, let's say. But anyway, he played for Feyenoord a little bit in their season where they picked up some success, cups and leagues and all the rest of it. And this year he's been out on loan to NEC Breda. And this year at Breda he's played basically every game in a variety of positions as well, and been pretty effective, as you can see here. All the different positions he's covered. We can scroll through them and have a little peek so you can see the versatility he offers. But this is a player that is like, wouldn't necessarily make the first team better, doesn't necessarily lift the level of the best 11, but this is the guy that can play all across midfield and really all of the wide areas. Isn't electric, but is quick. And as he's shown at Breda, being at a team that, you know, doesn't generally dominate the ball, it's an uphill battle to create chances, and you really have to, you know, take care of the ball as well as look after it and win it back, depending on what positions we're talking about that he's featured in here. It's been great for his development, in which he came off the bench 15 times, got 2 goals, 3 assists and 1 away penalty, and you can kind of see all the games he's made a mark on quite clearly here for Feyenoord as they went on to, did they win the league and cup this year, or was it just the cup? I forget, but you know, quite I wouldn't say vital, but certainly contributing member of the squad, certainly for Feyenoord in the Champions League. Is this the season we had them? I think it is. He came off the bench against us for 1 minute. There we go. I didn't even realise that before coming to do the video, so that's kind of funny. He's played against Celtic before. But yeah, he's won the Dutch Cup and the Super Cup, technically, at Feyenoord. I think he's probably earned the Cup medal. Don't know about the Super Cup. He's rated at 5 million. He's classified as a left winger. 4 senior caps for Slovakia. And this is a player that I think would be a really exciting transfer for Celtic, because he's an up-and-coming player. He's 19. He'll be back at Feyenoord, and let's see what they want to do with all the business they've got going on. I'm sure they're going to make a bunch of money this window for some other players that they'll be selling, no doubt. But does this guy see himself getting into their first team? Does he see himself making more of an impact on their first team? Hard to say, hard to know at this point. But if he was in our team, as you know, Brendan's always very interested in players that can play a multitude of positions. We're very interested in players that we can give minutes to develop and enhance our team with, and ultimately the club likes to see, what is the exit strategy potentially with a player. A senior international at the age of 19 that's already featured in the Champions League and in a successful Feyenoord team before getting a full season out on loan. Feels like a guy that's quite well set for a next step where he could come to us and do this sort of, like, if you zoom out now and look at the season that Yang's had, if you could offer that to a player like this, including the Champions League football, the potential to win titles and trebles and all the rest of it, I think he would absolutely jump at it. They paid 230k for him, so his transfer value at €5 million. Could you do it for as low as that? Maybe. You'd need to put a big chunky sell-on fee on the back of it, perhaps. But Feyenoord will be making a lot of profit on this player, and the fact he was on loan at Breda, and maybe not like a more formidable team, or even maybe a team in Portugal or something like that, a bit more exotic. I don't think that this is a guy that's like super high on their agenda to bleed into the team in this upcoming summer transfer window, and it's just a player I thought I would talk to you about because I find him interesting. Now buckle up your seatbelts for this one, it could get complicated, right? Miguel Rodriguez has been one of the sensations in the Eredivisie this year. This is a player that's came through the youth academy at Celta Vigo, and I actually watched this guy a fair amount of times in La Liga for Celta Vigo, mainly coming off the bench. In the season where he was playing for Celta Vigo, they're not normally a high-flying team. They're actually doing pretty well this year, it must be said. But that year they were fighting relegation. I think it was maybe the second season or so on the bounce. He was highly rated at Celta Vigo. I'd never really seen much of him that I thought, oh yeah, there's definitely a player in there. But he's went on loan to Utrecht, and he has exceeded, I think, all expectations this year of what Celta Vigo had for him. And we'll get to... we know where this is going with Utrecht already, right? So I say strap in for this one. But as you can see, his average performance in the last 5 out of 100 is 81, which is sensational. The last 15 average of 70 is incredible, and I don't think he's even played 40 matches for Utrecht yet, so the averages don't stretch back that far. He's a right winger, forward-based player, definitely an attacker. He's not going to be playing centre mid, he's not going to be playing CDM, he's not going to be playing striker through the middle. But a wide attacking kind of forward-based player could maybe play number 10 for us in the sort of shape that we play. If you think about that press support thing that Ihattaren does from midfield, he could maybe be fashioned into doing some sort of job like that for us because he is very quick. And if we look at the tail of the tape for him here at Utrecht in the Eredivisie, 13 starts, 7 games off the bench, 7 goals and 3 assists, and you can see it's much more than numbers. He has been a super effective attacker. He wins lots of duels, he creates lots of chances, he shows up in the big games, beating Ajax 4-0 at home, getting 2 goals for himself. And if we look at what else his contributions were like, he's winning contests, making big dribbles happen, big chances created, attempted assists for his teammates, duels won, which for a guy like this is mainly wing action, 7 with only 5 losses, an incredible ratio. Pass count is low, he's probably not actually on the ball too much in the grand scheme of things. He's been fouled a couple of times, won some free kicks. So a guy that's shown for a small team that's punching above their weight, and we know what Utrecht are up to with their transfer policy, is showing that he can really thrive in a situation like this, and is showing promise on top of the potential that maybe it was shown in academy age to get into Spain youth international teams as well as the Celta Vigo team. And just for context, this is his career at Celta Vigo. As you can see, it stretches over a number of years. He's been in their system trying to break through for a little while, and never really got much going. I couldn't even tell you what fixtures I've seen him in particularly, to be honest with you, but he's been in and around with not making any real headway. But like I say, he's been tearing up the Eredivisie. He's been one of the sensations there of the season, and Utrecht are currently sitting in 4th. Now with 2 games to go, they could still catch Feyenoord and put Feyenoord out of Champions League qualification and into Europa League qualification. They're only a couple of points behind. Let me just double check the table. They are 3 points behind with 2 games to go. So Utrecht might get into the Champions League, most likely the Europa League. There's no chance they're going to fall into that Conference League playoff that's ran in Holland. So anyway, they're on for European football next year, and Utrecht have really climbed the ladder in the Eredivisie. But if you check out the deal that they've got set up for Miguel Gutierrez, honestly, the Celtic fans were not going to be surprised by this, but like I said, this is part of the buckling up part. Utrecht have activated the €1.5 million buy clause for 50% of his rights, okay? Doing great in the Eredivisie. Utrecht can now get the extra 30% to be like the majority owner of his contract or whatever for an extra 750k, taking his transfer to 2.25 million in total. Celta don't have a buyback clause, and top Dutch and German guys are following. Now, who in Germany would be interested in this guy? I don't think anyone playing European football, to be quite honest with you. And if it's top Dutch teams, it's only the ones that are above Utrecht in the table. that, you know, could maybe muscle us out of a deal, because it's staying in Holland. He's not got far to travel. He's get used to the league and the climate and the surroundings and all the rest of it. But Utrecht owe us one. Utrecht owe us a £6 million goalkeeper, as it were. So if they've managed to do the sneaky and steal a little gem out of Spain, because again, Celta Vigo didn't put a big clause or a contract on this because they didn't think he was going to do that well there. It was a real surprise, a real shock. Despite, you know, he's got promise, youth international pedigree and all the rest of it. But, you know, how much would I pay for a guy like this? 7-8 million euros. I don't think that would be too much of a problem at all. I wouldn't even rule out doing something crazy, like giving them Luis Palma and Lagerbielke or something like that, and making the deal work that way, because they're going to be playing European competition. They need to get new players anyway. They need to upgrade some levels. We can kid on Luis Palma could do a job for them. They've seen Lagerbielke, and maybe even somebody like a Welsh or a Rocky. You know, there could be a creative thing to be done here. But the way I see it is, if we pick up the phone, Utrecht are answering it. They owe us one. They screwed us on the Barkas deal, and I'd be going back to them and saying, hey, that wee guy Miguel, you know, we want him. Let's do it. We are doing a deal. You know, close them on it. We are doing a deal here. Make no mistake about it. And again, a guy that really does fit the Celtic mould. Really quick, really front foot, really exciting attacker. And as you've seen from his tail of the tape we looked at there, an effective match winner, no two ways about it. And when we're looking at the squad and what we really need coming out the back of this summer, guys like Miguel Rodriguez and Leo Sauer could easily come into the, you know, the depth of the squad, compete for places, get minutes, of course, without needing to be the star man, the big money signing that gets all the game time and all the matches. So again, guys that although would cost a couple of quid, would fit very nicely into the dynamic we've got in the squad. Go Ahead Eagles have been one of the big kind of surprise stories in the Dutch league this year, and they've got a few key men that have made that happen. One of the most exciting players I think they've got in their books is Jacob Briem. This guy is a very versatile attacking based player who is very clever. You know, he's a player that can be played in a lot of different positions, and is showing for a team that again that is really punching above their weight that he can find a route to goal, not just for himself but for his teammates in a number of different ways. He's picked up a wee injury towards the back end of the season here, so it's kind of derailed him, but as you can see from his performances here, he is one of the most successful players we've seen in European football and the outside of the top 5 leagues, as it were, for goals and assists, and he has been the star man, the real talisman here from attacking midfield, but can play wide, can play through the middle as well. The Go Ahead Eagles attack line has been mixed up a little bit down to availability, form, etc. They've got another player we're going to look at in a second, but they had another player that was kind of part of a trident, as it were, of an attack, who's where they moved to Ajax, and Edvardsen, and this is a player that is, you know, going to attract a lot of interest in the summer. What sort of club will he move to? I think it'll be a club that, if it's not going to be directly into the Premier League or a top team in like Germany or Italy, probably, you're looking at a team that's going to be playing with Europa League with the intention of trying to win it, or a team like us in the Champions League that need high level versatile squad players that, you know, are ambitious and want to be in the first team and fight for the medals and everything that goes around it. Go Ahead signed him from OB Odense, and this is the tail of the tape that he had in the Danish Superliga. So again, playing left mid, right mid, a variety of different positions before moving up that level to Holland, and, you know, it's continuing to strut his stuff in advance, as it were. Go Ahead this year won the Dutch Cup as well, so he's a Dutch Cup winner, and I say Go Ahead have been one of the big stories, one of the big surprise packages in the Eredivisie. He's rated at €5 million. He's a Danish under-21 international. I think given the season that Go Ahead have had, there's no chance of European football from the league position. I'm not too sure if they get that via the Cup, if I'm honest. His contract is up in 2027, so 2 years from now. I think this is a player that's probably in that same kind of price range as a Miguel Rodriguez, where you're looking at like your €7 or €8 million. But this is a guy who's got a lot of room to grow, a lot of potential, and is the right type of player. You know, a very smart player, good in-game IQ, and versatile, as well as being quick and looking after the ball well. And we see the sort of players that come out, you know, the likes of Denmark and Holland and Belgium especially, that if they're getting into that national team setup as well as doing well at club level, then, you know, you're getting a good professional, a good athlete, you know. So I think this is a guy that ticks a lot of boxes for us. On the small side at 178, you know, but again, creative attacking players don't tend to be giants for the most part. Now, he does have a partner in crime, as it were, still at Go Ahead Eagles with him, in Oliver Antman. Now, Antman has been just as effective as Jacob Briem, and if you were to just zoom out and look at Go Ahead, you would say they are both the two main instigators, the two main guys that have driven them up the table and ultimately to the cup success that they've had. A very formidable player, does a lot of the versatility that Briem does, and they've been two of the main players that the attack has been balanced around. Like you can see with Antman here, predominantly on the right, can play on the left, and I'm sure he's even played up front through the middle, maybe even from the bench on a few occasions. Is a Finland senior international as well, so there's a wee bit of that international thing that Celtic like. Yeah, I may be thinking about when he was in Denmark before coming to Holland for that striker experience. He got a goal and an assist against Scotland off the bench, which, you know, you guys might not remember, but I certainly do. And, you know, this is a guy that's attracting some interest. It looks like Freiburg are interested in replacing Ritsu Dohan with him. I think, did we feature Dohan on the championship video? On the German video? I'm not too sure. I don't remember. I think we did. He was on the shortlist. I don't remember if he made the video, but and that's for around 67 million euros. That is a great transfer fee, and this is a guy that, if he's available for 67 million euros, we should be going after. Freiburg are pushing for Champions League, are pushing for European football as well, but it is Freiburg. You know, they shouldn't be out muscling us in a transfer negotiation situation like this, and I think Antman really does fit the bill. Leicester maybe fancy him, as well as maybe one or two other teams. Get 20 goals for Finland with 7 goals, only rated at 4 million euros. We've already seen on Twitter there where it's much more a realistic transfer fee for him. His deal expires in 27. They have a further year option they could activate on that as well. Has the versatility we mentioned about before. At 1m85 is a bit more of an aerial presence compared to Briam, certainly anyway, and is a guy that has a bit more versatility, not in Briam but just in general, what we've been used to. And, you know, Jota's injured, he's going to be out for a while. We need players that can cover a multitude of positions, of course, we know that, but we also need guys that are effective in the position we're going to be signing them for. And to play predominantly off the right as a secondary left player or a secondary centre player, I think Antman at the transfer fees quoted for him would be an absolute steal. Now, Filip Krastev has been quite an exciting, quite an interesting wonder kid to follow across European and world football over his short career so far. Currently finds himself at PEC Zwolle. He is owned by Lamel. If you don't know Lamel, they're the team that's owned by Man City, City Football Group, that's in the second tier of Belgian football. They also owned Vinicius Souza, if you remember the big Brazilian defensive midfielder we were close to signing before he went to Sheffield United. We featured him on the championship video, in fact. He's owned by them. He's actually featured in MLS as well when he went to LAFC on loan for a little while, but this year he's been at PEC Zwolle all season. PEC Zwolle are a very low ranking Dutch team. He's not been ever present. His averages are very, very good. He's played a lot of this season, a Bulgarian international as well. But Krastev, if you ever go and check him out on YouTube or go and watch his highlights or whatever, he is a flair player. If we look at his PEC Zwolle kind of tail of the tape, this is the first guy on the video, and considering how prolific some of the other players we've seen already are, this is the only guy we featured on today's episode that's got to 100 out of 100. He's done it 3 times for PEC Zwolle this year. He scores bangers, he scores worldies. This guy is a talisman, is a maverick, is a leader. It says striker here, but it's like wide forward, you know, it's that kind of, he is a winger, he's a diminutive guy. Could maybe play in a Hatate kind of role for us as well. Shows up in the big matches, like you can see here at home at PSV, and is a very exciting player. Now, I think this is a move that could be done like potentially on a loan basis, because Lamel have been loaning him out forever. Now, we could probably afford to sign him, don't get me wrong, but if we are going to be limited in our transfer budget, and Brendan says, I'm going to spend, let's imagine it's 25 million quid. I'm going to spend the 25 million quid on 2 guys, and then, you know, we're going to get Tierney in on loan, and then maybe you could get a guy like this, we're going to get Tierney for free, and then maybe you get a guy like this in on loan to round out the squad and, you know, just to best appropriate your assets. You know, I think Brendan wants to spend more of the transfer budget on less players, and then loans do become more interesting, do become more valuable. And then on loan, there's less pressure, less commitment to fulfilling like agreements and obligations and all the rest of it. Whereas if you sign a guy, you are really looking after their career and saying we're going to bring you through and develop you, and if it doesn't work out for any reason, form, fitness, other players or whatever, then you're not left holding the can with the wages and whatever. A transfer, but I would not be against at all, don't get me wrong. And again, similar to Antman and Leo Sauer, a full international for, you know, like another nation or whatever, like a lower ranked nation, but all the same, Celtic do love that international pedigree, and the guy has techers, like techers. It's not just about numbers and breaking the lines and all that stuff. Some players need to have that kind of that stardust, that X factor, and Krastev definitely has a bit of that. Now, if we're talking about something a little bit different, this isn't seriously a player to consider for the video, right? But I couldn't go and do a Dutch video and not include the legend that is Jizz Hornkamp. Now, I know you can't believe this is a real name, but it is. He plays up front. Look at his tash. Look at Jizz Hornkamp is a It's a streets won't forget type player. We'll show you his scores for the banter. We're not going to go in for him. We're not after him. He's 27. But Jizz performs. Jizz does not miss. I want to see those comments on Jizz Hornkamp from you guys. Thoughts and feelings. Would probably be very prolific in our division, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, I couldn't not do a video on Holland and not showcase Jizz Hornkamp's decent season he's had for Heracles, and just bring that player to your attention for nothing else than the funny name. And if you don't know why it's funny, you're probably too young to laugh anyway, so I'm not going to explain it to you. Going along with the same kind of mould that Celtic like, of maybe like wonder kids that haven't fulfilled their potential, or, you know, high prospect players that haven't quite found the path yet. There is like it was almost one of the saddest stories in European and world football recently, and it's kind of becoming a good story now, and that is of Mohamed Ihattaren. Now, Mohamed Ihattaren came through, I forget if it was PSV or the Ajax Academy, I'm sure we'll see when we get to Transfermarkt, but he came through one of their academies, ended up playing for the other one, ended up going to Juventus, ended up playing for Slavia Prague. He might have went somewhere else. He actually went missing when he was at Juve. Like, nobody actually knew where he was. People thought he might have died, right? And yeah, it was crazy. Like, nobody really knows what's happened to this guy in his career. But he signed for Walwick on a free transfer. He's lost a lot of weight compared to when he was at Slavia Prague, and Stella has got her groove back, to use the old expression, as it were. He is really starting to show a lot of that latent potential is coming back. He's starting to get back into the game, back into football, and is like an elite. Like, he didn't break through at Ajax, and there was maybe some problems around his whole life, of course, which has led to him disappearing and whatever. Then he goes to PSV, or vice versa, and then Juve take him because of how high level of a prospect this guy was. And subsequently, as we've just walked through there, it doesn't quite work out as you would expect. He does have some accolades to his name: a Dutch champion, European under-17 champion, Dutch under-17 cup winner. The transfer value is next to nothing. Mino Raiola is his agent, so would he want to play Champions League? Hell to the yeah. Would Mino Raiola want him to play Champions League? Hell to the yeah. Will Walwick want a transfer fee? Yeah. Could we afford it? Absolutely. 1 year left on his contract. It's not going to be anything mega. And this is a player, so it's PSV. Oh, yeah, actually, I forgot about the Sampdoria thing, to be quite honest with you. But it's PSV to Ajax, I beg your pardon. And that's maybe a bit of a testament as well, because, you know, Ajax don't mess about when it comes to young players. They know what they're buying, generally. And yeah, market value, highest point, 22 million euros, now under $1 million. You know, Walwick, give them 3 to 5 million in a sell-on fee for a guy like this, and I think they'll probably be quite happy. Samsunspor in Turkey was also technically contracted to. I'm not sure if he ever appeared for them. Now, could this guy disrupt the changing room and the balance of the squad and all the rest of it? Potentially. I don't think so, but at this stage, because he's so firmly fell off the rails before, he's back on track now in a big way, and it does feel like he's trying to make up for lost time. And we are after like sincere elite quality, and sometimes the best place to find it is when it's untapped potential. And Celtic have tried that a number of times, as we know, but someone like Mohamed Ihattaren is like really going for it, you know, rolling with 2 dice rather than 1, really giving yourself a good chance of getting 6 or above, you know, sort of thing. So I like this one, and I think it could be done at a modest transfer fee. You are taking a bit of there maybe needs to be a bit more investigative work into the player and stuff like that, you know, but again, if we're going to go to Holland, he's as good a prospect to think about as anyone else. A player we have been linked to a few times when he was more playing in left back, but has now been playing more in defensive midfield, has the versatility to play 2 positions behind McGregor and Tierney, is an experienced senior international, has played European football, has been very successful in Holland. Who am I talking about? Michal Sadilek, would you believe it? Now, some of you guys will know him already because we were linked to him 1,000 times when I think he was like 21, 20 and playing at left back. He's currently at FC Twente, formerly of PSV and Slovan Liberec, but if we look at his Twente career, as you can see, quite consistent for the last 3 or 4 years, has a top performance in him, and has played in a number of different positions from left back to centre mid to left wing, and 1 or 2 other bits and pieces. 106 appearances for them, 6 goals, 13 assists. Not an attack based player, of course, but if we look at the last year, he's really went up a level in defensive midfield. He's really made that position his own. He's currently playing with Lager Bielke, of course, so a character reference won't be hard to get or anything like that. Would Lager Bielke sell him on a move to Celtic? I'm not super convinced about that, unless Lager Bielke thought he was going to be in the team. But defensive midfielder that gets goals and assists, he's a left back by trade as well, so he's got a cross, he's got a whip, he's got an eye for a pass on him, as well as I mentioned before, the versatility he offers there, and been able to play this effectively in defensive midfield in Holland is always a very good characteristic, always a good indicator. He's a Dutch under-19 champion, 25 goals for the Czech Republic, 25 caps, 1 goal, I beg your pardon. He's rated at €8 million. I would pay 8 to 10 million euros for a guy like this, no problem at all. Contract extension happened in December last year to give him an extra year to make sure they get a transfer fee for him, is what my hunch and intuition tells me on this one. And yeah, this is a guy that would like come into the squad as like a senior player and could play a number of different positions very effectively and help us get more out of the rest of the squad that we have. Because Sadilek, unlike Ihattaren and McGregor, maybe I would even go as far as to say, you know, it's the likes of Taylor and whatever, he's got a bit more physicality about him. He's got a bit more of that European pedigree, as it were, where in some of the tough games we've got, he'll have a nose for danger. He'll just be in the right place at the right time and can make things happen that way. And that's not a slight on McGregor or Ihattaren or anything like that, don't get me wrong, but you know, they're learning that with us, and sometimes that's one of the benefits of buying players, is you're buying the experience they've had. And Twente, he's played in Europe in the Conference League pretty effectively. I think that might have been 2 years ago. In the Europa League maybe this year, pretty doing not too bad as well. There was Champions League qualification there, but they didn't quite make it. At PSV, at all competitions, yeah, not much going on there, so he didn't really break through for them. Now again, thinking about that mould of like a high value prospect who could add to the squad but isn't going to upset the balance in the changing room or anything like that, I think again at Walwick, similar to Mohamed Ihattaren we mentioned before, a great prospect we should be keeping tabs on is Faisal Al-Maziani. Glad I managed to get that one out. Now he's listed here as a right back, right mid, but I know from seeing this guy in youth internationals, etc., he's much more of a CDM, a centre defensive midfielder, and he's a very tricky, like he's like he's maybe got a wee bit of the Frenkie de Jongs about him, if that's a player most of you guys at home could maybe, I'm just trying to think about a top 5 league, Champions League kind of current player, but he's not like a hard man defensive midfielder, he's much more of like a McGregor type player. But as you can see for Walwick in senior football, he's breaking through at right back because he's got good defensive qualities, good in the duel, good at winning tackles, all the rest of it. But by playing at right back, he can swing in crosses, he can actually join in with the attack if the opportunity opens up. Nice versatility for us to have a backup or another guy that can rotate into right back or even centre back, as you can see here. But this is a guy that came through, like I say, in youth circles and whatever, as a centre defensive midfielder. Wow, look at this, 54 all around and a 2-0 win to Willem II. Not that much attacking output, a few dribbles and stuff like that. Duels won and lost, very good. 4 interceptions, pass count is okay for a fullback, isn't it? 3 tackles, 7 clearances. Yeah, very, very good player there. Nice techers as well, nice technique, very nippy, strong, robust, and still at the age of 20. You know, he's Moroccan, you know, nationally captain, whatever, but he's half Belgian as well, so I don't think you need to worry about work permits or anything like that. Only rated at €500,000. I would pay like €2 million for a guy like this, no problem. Maybe give him Odenholm's place in the squad, or the place Odenholm thinks he's going to get in the squad. And yeah, defensive midfielder is where I would see this guy pitched up as. But again, has very good versatility. Maybe he could even be our backup right-footed centre-back for Vickers as well. And the academy is kind of brought through. I was trying to remember when I was talking about the youth football stuff, but it was in Belgium, of course, as well as Morocco, just with some of the tabs I keep around the game, as it were. Very influential player, very effective. And again, think about Arne Engels came through the same system, but for Bruges, and his transfer was to Olsberg rather than Walwick. And you know, in terms of pedigree, they're not really too dissimilar. International credentials at youth level, etc. So I think this is a guy that's kind of went under the radar and is maybe just needing a better agent or needing someone to scout him and dig him up. And I think this guy could be a very good asset to Celtic. Maybe a wee bit on the cheap, but still valuable all the same. And Kodai Sano was a name that was recommended to me for making this video, and upon review of this guy, he is, as he was presented to me as, is quite similar to Ihattaren, maybe a little bit taller. I'm not sure if he's as strong, but the same sort of area of the pitch that he covers, same sort of attributes. Doesn't look quite as good at long shots, but he is 21. You know, remember when we found Ihattaren, it wasn't yesterday, you know, he's 27 now. I think we picked up Ihattaren at 23 or something, 22 perhaps. So a lot younger, already in Europe with some experience at NEC, and over his time there, 39 games, 7 goals, 3 assists. Isn't too bad, considering the team he's at and, you know, the level that they're at. Actually doing a little bit better this season than typical. Normally plays as a centre defensive midfielder, so does have more defensive duties in the team. But he does have the touch of Ihattaren's about him. He can play in centre. He can play kind of more left or right not quite winger, but like off the front line as well. Because he's at NEC, I don't think it would cost a huge transfer fee. But in the event that Feyenoord lose, there's somebody linked to leave Feyenoord for big money. I forget who it is, but they are considering this guy as a replacement to him. So again, well regarded, well respected within the Dutch system, and we've already looked at a few Feyenoord players, so maybe why not buy a guy that Feyenoord would have bought that we need to, that kind of jump ahead of the queue kind of thing, as it were, As you can see, these attacking positions here could be quite prolific, getting goals, 4 games on the spin there. Rated at €4 million at the moment. Again, for a guy like this, maybe 5 or 6 isn't out the question. His contract is up in 2028, so a good position for NEC to be in for selling the player. And you can see the versatility we've mentioned there. No real international pedigree to mention whatsoever. And they signed him 2 years ago from Fagiano Okayama, who are now in the J-League, but back then were in J2. So very good scouting by NEC, picking him up for less than €500,000. And yeah, well, they're going to make profit on him. And I think, if we helped him do that and we got a good player in return, it wouldn't be a bad turn at all. So that takes us up to 101 players on our Celtic summer transfer wish list, shopping list, laundry list. I've kind of lost track of what we're calling it. Players, again, of all shapes and sizes, transfer values, origins, youth pedigrees, backgrounds, all sorts of stuff. Now, this time next week, we're going to be live and we're going to go through the 101 players that we've got here, and we're going to try and make a condensed down shortlist. A top 25 sounds good, but let's see, how we break it down. We need a Kyogo replacement. We need a backup left back. People are telling me we need a centre back in the building, and I think we all know that we need like an extra midfielder in there that gives another dimension. We all kind of want that extra defensive dimension, but sometimes I think we need a bit more attacking output, a wee bit more thrust from the middle, especially if maybe Rio Hatate is going to leave, which a lot of people are starting to feel that might be the case, So I'm looking forward to doing that with you guys next week. If you haven't done so already, please do hit the subscribe button for more content like this on screen, and now some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Don't forget to hit the like button and jump into the comment section. I want to hear your Jizz Hornkamp jokes, as well as what you thought about the video today, prospects we could go after, other suggestions you would have from the Dutch league, etc. Hail, hail, and mon the hoops.